Please join me in welcoming Michael Veltri.
Thank you, John. So I love speaking to successful elite teams. And my exposure to elite teams came when I joined the Marine Corps at the tender age of 17. And during my Marine training, there came a time where I found myself having to hold a live hand grenade, and I forgot what to do. Like, I couldn't remember if it was pull pin, thumb clip, or thumb clip, pull pin, but I am standing there holding a live hand grenade. Now, do you think the Marine Corps recruiter decided to tell me about this? No. What did he talk about? He talked about the glamour of the Marine Corps, wearing the sharp dress blues uniform. He talked about leadership, becoming a leader of Marines. But he failed to mention I'd have to hold and throw live hand grenades. So somehow I did manage to rip the pin out, and it's go time. You cannot jam a pin back in once you've ripped it out of a live hand grenade. I'm sweating, I'm terrified. I've got 30 of my Marine buddies on the side watching to see if I'm going to screw this up and kill myself. I've got a Marine drill instructor right in my face, screaming at me, driving up my fear, confusion, distracting me. And I've got a big decision to make here. 3 choices. Choice number 1, I make a good decision, right, and throw the hand grenade. But like any good decision, it has to be executed properly, because what good is it if I don't throw it far enough, or in the right direction, or at the right time? Option number 2, terrified. I've got my Marine buddies watching you. My fear, my ego corrupt me. I make a bad decision, dropping the hand grenade, killing myself, killing and injuring my Marine buddies. And then we always have a 3rd choice, where I neither make a good decision and throw the hand grenade, nor make a bad decision, drop it, get it over with. But I choose to make no decision, and I have to hold on to that hand grenade for the rest of my life. So I'd like you to think, where are your decisions and your associations in your personal life like that? Now, let me get rid of this thing, and I did throw it successfully as I'm still standing here. But I'd like us all to consider that decisions in our business and personal life are like that hand grenade. You're either going to hold them, drop them, or throw them. And we all want to make better decisions, and we're faced with hand grenade decisions in our lives. I don't think there's any team building options offered today for throwing live hand grenades. I do not recommend it. It's a terrifying experience. But we are faced with hand grenade decisions. Do we roll out mobile platform A, B, or C? Do we hire new chief learning officer candidate 1, 2, or 3? But here's the challenge that we're all facing. Researchers at Cornell University has recently discovered that kids, our darling children, make 3,000 semi-conscious to conscious decisions a day. Kids make 3,000 decisions a day. Now I have a darling 3.5-year-old daughter. Her name's Kiara, beautiful blondie. And I can attest, out of her 3,000 daily decisions, some of them aren't the best. Okay, this was taken over Labor Day weekend. If you can see, she's holding a pair of scissors. Cassandra, your daughter, that knot she got, my daughter would have had it out in seconds, cutting. You wouldn't have to spend those late nights untangling it. Now, I don't think her little friend Leticia is coming back for a play date anytime soon. So if kids are faced with 3,000 decisions a day, how many decisions a day do you think busy professionals like us and our staff make on a daily basis? How many? Take a guess. 20,000, okay. Ready? 35,000 semi-conscious to conscious decisions a day. 500 decisions alone on what we're going to eat or drink. 35,000 decisions a day, 365 days a year. That's over 12 million decisions a year we're faced with making. There has to be room for improvement. But the challenge is we never learned a system for making better decisions. We have an education system, right? I studied English and math for 12, 14 years, elementary school, middle school, high school, a couple years in college, but I never took a decision-making science class. So if we're making decisions on misguided cues, or what worked in the past, or the latest fad, of course we're going to make bad decisions, or not the best decisions possible. Another way of saying that is mediocrity. And I'm not okay with mediocrity. I'm not okay with being a mediocre leader. I'm not okay with you having a mediocre association. That Sal shared that statistic that impacts millions of lives. That leads to regret. Regret that we missed out on the next step in our career path or didn't help our staff achieve more in their careers. We lost that big association client, or we never fulfilled our true life calling. But if you can figure out a system for making better decisions, you can liberate your future, live without regret, and that's what I am passionate about, what John shared. I've studied decision-making in many different contexts. I've studied decision-making in life or death combat, in the Marine Corps, and in the martial arts. I've studied decision-making in fighting for my own life, in battling my own personal demons of cancer. I've studied decision-making in the boardroom and in business, both domestic and abroad, living in Japan for 10 years as a business consultant. And I've studied decision-making in academic surroundings. This is what I discovered. There's 5 traps that we all fall into in making decisions. If you can avoid these traps or learn a simple way to get out of the traps, those 35,000 daily decisions that you and your staff are faced with are going to increase. You're going to impact your careers, your associations, and your communities. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. 5 traps, 5 simple solutions that's going to help impact our associations far and wide, because it does boil down to, if you're making better decisions, you simply have a better life. By way of example, a brand that we're all familiar with, many of us headquartered in DC, the Watergate Hotel and hospitality. It's the home of the scandal in the 70s. It was great for business, believe it or not. In the 80s, the hotel thrived in the Reagan administration. It fell on hard times in the 90s and 2000s. Changed ownership many times, bankrupt, didn't pay taxes. They finally closed their doors in 2007, this iconic brand. New owners purchased it 7 years later after it sat empty, 2014. They made all the right decisions. They fell into traps, but they got out of them. 2 years later, after $200 million renovation, the Watergate Hotel reopened. Revenue is up. They embraced the scandalous nature. They hired the set director from the hit TV show Mad Men to design the outfits of the staff. They did unique branding, embracing the scandalous nature with the key cards and the pencils. The wait music has 1970 iconic sounds on it. And revenue's up. It's become a new destination location again, embracing its iconic heritage. Likewise, in another industry, manufacturing, there's Marlin Steel. This is the owner, Drew Greenblatt. Marlin Steel makes one product, wire baskets to hold bagels. Who would have thought, right? That's their only product. Sold to Einstein Brothers Bagels, Brugger's Bagels chain. Only product they made. 18-person company based in Baltimore. 800,000 in annual revenue. Everything was going great until a little country called China manufactured the same wire baskets at half the price. Drew sold them for $12 and some change. Chinese sold them for $5 and some change. His business was days away from closing. He was working the phones trying to sell more baskets to his bagel companies with his 2-person sales staff when Lady Luck smiled on Drew. An engineer from Boeing called his company and said, "Drew, I need 24 wire baskets in 2 weeks to hold my machine parts. Can you guys do it?" Drew literally, old school pen and paper, said, "Mr. Engineer, yes, but I'm sorry, they're going to cost $26 per basket." The engineer cut him off. "Okay, I'll write you a check now. I'll give you my credit card. Get them to us." The Boeing engineer had a multi-billion-dollar contract. He didn't care about $26 per basket. Drew's company was saved. He now sells specialty baskets to the aerospace, manufacturing, any automotive industry. Anybody that has parts, they need wire baskets to hold them. He's doubled his staff to 36. Revenue's up 8-fold to $8 million, and he's got a bright future ahead of him. But Drew was not a responsible leader in his decision-making like the Watergate leadership. Drew made every mistake in the book, fell into every trap, and it was Lady Luck that saved his organization. And I don't know about you, but I don't want Lady Luck leading my association or relying on it. I want to be a responsible leader. When I get into a tough decision, my staff and I can make the right decisions at the right time to move us forward. So how can we do it? As John said, I have a new best-selling book called The Mushin Way to Peak Performance. You all get a copy mailed, so you don't have to worry about taking it home with you. And the word mushin is Japanese and literally means no mind. But I'd like you to think of it as no distractions, or clarity. Clarity that leads to better decision making. And this concept of mushin was developed hundreds of years ago on the feudal battlefields of Japan, where the samurai warriors fought to the death with razor-sharp samurai swords. Life or death was decided not in seconds, but milliseconds. So the samurai warriors couldn't be distracted. Practicing mushin, they freed their mind from the shackles of fear and ego. They freed their mind from the shackles of guilt, obligation, anger, frustration, and the mind and body became polished like a mirror reflection. It's the clarity of the enlightened warrior. And we are all enlightened warriors, fighting for our association to thrive well beyond the 21st century. So let's dive right in and look at trap 1 and how that can impact our decision making. Now, trap 1 is affectionately called the clogged arteries trap. Think about clogged arteries. If you have clogged arteries in your body, you can suffer a massive heart attack and die. Well, we all suffer from clogged decision-making arteries. Many of you may not even realize the losing battle you're fighting against distractions. Distractions is what clogs our decision-making arteries. We have become the frog boiling in the proverbial bubble of electronic distractions. Some of you are looking at your phone right now. How many times a day do busy professionals like us and your staff look at your smartphone? On average, how many times a day do you think? Not as many of those decisions, right? On average, busy professionals, not the kids, look at their smartphone about 175 distracting times per day. Some heavy users will look at their smartphone over 1,000 distracting times per day. 75% of us with a smartphone are connected to the office 13 and a half hours per day. That means the very first thing you see in the morning is your work emails, calendar items, social media posts, to-do lists. Be honest, how many of you use your smartphone as an alarm clock each morning and start looking at all of that stuff? So recently, the University of Virginia, UVA, decided to do its study to test our addiction to distraction, our dependency even to distractions. And this is how the study went. UVA researchers asked adult male and female participants to simply sit alone for 15 minutes without any distractions. Easy enough. Comfortable chair, comfortable table. Now, on the table was a red button that they had to press to start the 15-minute timer. And when they pressed the red button, it delivered a shock so powerful that each participant said they would gladly pay money to never experience that shock again. Then the 15 minutes started. What do you think the results of the study showed? Ladies, here's the good news, ladies. Only 50% of you couldn't do it. 50% of the female participants, knowing what would happen, chose to press the red button repetitively, shocking themselves, causing themselves pain, than to sit alone for 15 lousy minutes. But wait, come on, guys. We can't be outdone by the ladies, right? What do you think the percentage of men was that couldn't leave well enough alone and press the red button? What do you think? Close to 90% of the male participants, knowing what would happen, chose to press the doggone red button, repetitively, shocking themselves, causing them physical harm. Think about that. Right? Most of us cannot sit alone for 15 lousy minutes undistracted, and your staff can't either. What are we so afraid we're going to see? Are we afraid we're going to see hand grenade decisions that we're holding on to? Hand grenade decisions we've thrown the wrong way? Hand grenade decisions we've dropped? That's the battle of clogged arteries that's getting in our way of making better decisions. Simple solution. Now, if you don't suffer from checking your email all the time or battling constant priorities, great. But if you do, here's a simple solution that I call the double 5 count. Double 5 count. Takes less than 20 seconds to do, and it unclogs your decision-making arteries. 5 deep breaths. Okay? Sit up straight, close your eyes. If you're in a meeting, obviously don't close your eyes. Look away, glance down. You can take 5 deep cleansing breaths, expanding your belly, contracting them. Takes a few seconds to do. That starts to get you away from the electronic distractions. You're then going to take another 5 deep breaths, but you're going to do this one a little different. You're going to visualize something. You're going to visualize what I call the third place. Now, the third place is where you spend most of your time away from your first 2 places. What are our first 2 places? We spend most of our time at Work and at work for a lot of us, right? At work and at work and home. Some of us work at home and you get caught in a real. Some of you don't even have a third place. A third place is where you go to rest, to recharge, to learn a new skill, to volunteer. For some people it might be the church or Boysville or Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. For me it's the martial arts school. The third place is where you go to relax. It helps you to increase your decision-making skills, gets your creativity flowing. Now, as busy professionals, right, we all can't go and take a yoga class in the middle of our day or go play with those doggies on the lawn like we did yesterday. But when you take that second 5 count, I want you to visualize your third place. And this is where you can have fun with it. It can be some place you can't get to often. I grew up in northwest Pennsylvania, in Erie, 2 hours north of Pittsburgh. The leaves are spectacular. You know, for me, I imagine my third place. I imagine walking in those leaves. It's a little chilly, holding my dad's hand, as I did when I was a child. Now, holding my child's hand. For some of you, it might be the mountains. For others, it's the beach. Visualizing a third place helps you stem off the onslaught of distractions, gets the creative juices, getting you ready, whether you're faced with a big hand grenade decision or you're trying to figure out what to do on the weekend with the family, the kids, things like that. That gets us ready to tackle the second trap that we may find ourselves in. Trap 2 is a trap of bad balance, taken from everyone's favorite movie in 1986, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Okay? The Ferris Bueller trap. Now, what do we know about Ferris Bueller? Okay? One man struggled to take it easy. Ferris Bueller had fun. Ferris Bueller lived for romance and love and just liked to relax. Ferris Bueller lived from his heart. Decision-making is a balance between art and science. Your heart and your head, your instincts, your gut, and data. So Ferris Bueller would make a great CFO, wouldn't he, right? Chief Fun Officer. But we need a little balance, and our polar opposite of Mr. Bueller is this guy, right? Okay. Did Mr. Spock ever have a day of fun in his life? Probably not. He never took a day off. He's not going to go romance and fall in love. Dr. Spock was all about logic, data, numbers. Right? He would make a great CFO. Jim, you know, this spreadsheet doesn't compute. So it's a delicate balance between the two. And that is what we need to find. And if we don't, we fall into that Ferris Bueller trap. Excite was the #2 search engine behind Yahoo in 1999. In 1999, they had the opportunity to buy a little-known startup called Google for $750,000. Larry Page, the founder of Google, wanted to sell it, go back to Stanford and get his PhD and not worry about this thing he had started. He had showed the CEO leadership, the Excite leadership, that if they switched to Google, bought them, used their algorithm, they would make $150,000 a day in extra revenue. All the numbers look good. The CEO, George Will of Excite, he was told, let's do it, the deal works, it's great. But George fell into the Ferris Bueller trap and listened to his heart. One stipulation in the sale was Larry Page put in that Google's algorithm, Google's guts, had to replace Excite's guts. You could still use Excite's branding, all of that, they'd run it. The Excite CEO said, if we do that, my baby's gone. No, I can't do that. I know it makes sense economically. And so in 1999, he passed on buying Google for $750,000. A few years later, the tech bubble burst. Excite went Chapter 7 liquidation. Google is now worth $580 with a B billion.